last week of June, I went over to Idaho and I decided to visit Elk River, where my friend has a cabin, and then take off and run down to Fish Lake, and to Fish Lake, which I've never landed at before, and then after Fish Lake, go on to Cold Meadows. This is a takeoff from Elk River, early in the morning, about 6:30. It was a little foggy, but not too bad. And I climbed up to about 7,500 to head over to Fish Lake. At this point, I'm just about to turn base for my approach into Fish Lake. And it's a one-way in approach, coming in over the lake and landing toward the mountains. It was a real beautiful morning. There was virtually no wind, and it was about 60 degrees. You can see the lake with no wind on it at all. And you'll notice that once you get down to a certain degree, a go-around is not advised because you're going into higher terrain. This end of the lake, this end of the runway close to the lake, is generally soft and wet. So I elected to land a little bit further down, about a quarter of a way down the runway before touching down. Well, I just landed at Fish Lake, and it was kind of fun. The runway's a little bumpy, but it's not in too bad a shape. There sure are a lot of rodents and stuff like that. You can see right there. So the rodents and everything kind of tear the runway up quite a bit. But we'll walk down here to a little bit further. You can see down there is a Forest Service cabin. And they've got the runway marked pretty nice. They got cones here for the end of the runway. Still a lot of snow all the way up around. Beautiful place. I wouldn't mind camping here for a little while, but I've got Cold Meadows to go to, and that's at least an hour away. And I don't want to spend too much time here, but it's a beautiful place. Just beautiful. The takeoff from Fish Lake was uneventful, even though there have been several accidents of overloaded aircraft going into the lake. I managed to get off and climb out with no problem. And now I'm setting up for an approach to Cold Meadows, which is at a little over 7,000 feet high. As I make my turn here, you can see the runway far off in the distance. And unfortunately, I didn't make a low pass to check the runway, and as I approached, I noticed quite a muddy bog right there at the end. So I went a little further, and I noticed another muddy bog about two-thirds of the way down. And as I continued down the runway, I noticed yet another muddy bog. And here's where it gets interesting. I decide to go around. And you will notice, as I add full power, the terrain is rising about as fast as I am. And so I'm getting a little pucker here, but it keeps going and I managed to clear the trees okay. But I wished I'd had made a low pass the other direction to check for those mud bogs first. And as you can see, there's a bailout valley a little bit to the right here, which I take. And I set up for yet another approach, this time landing past the third mud bog on the uphill slope portion of the runway. Actually, I needn't have worried about the length of the runway and having to go around, because after I touched down, I actually had to add quite a lot of power to get up the hill to the parking area here at Cold Meadows. Here's a quick look down the 4,500-foot runway of Cold Meadows. As you can see, it's quite long, and at 7,000 feet, you're going to need some of that runway to get off the ground.